Oh, you're a fast draw, are you? I said, oh no, and I knew he was into it, you know. He opened up this cabinet in this room we were at, and it was all pistols. Oh God, I'm in trouble. And he said, pick one. And I said, you know, I don't even want to do this, but so he picked one for me. And then he picked a pistol that had a barrel about that long. And I thought, well, maybe I got a chance here, you know.
You did another classic series, the Dick Powell's Zane Grey Theater, and Cameron Mitchell was in that with you, too.
I have no memory. You sent me a link to the show.
Right. No, that was for Johnny Ringo. Did you watch that?
I watched it, and I didn't remember anything. Nothing. And I told my wife, I said, I don't remember one scene. I don't remember one. I did remember the bad guy, the guy who played the bad guy, but I don't remember doing anything with him. He was familiar.
And,
you know?
and Karen Sharp, who was your co-star in that, too? She was a regular? Nothing? Oh. She'd be happy to hear that.
Well, you know, what was the question? You know, that's about where I am now. My wife is my hard drive.
I don't want anybody to know about me. That's no way to help.
Jamie, they're gonna find you sooner or later. You can't do it alone.
The more people that know about me, the less chance I have.
I go to Johnny Ringo. You'll be safe in Velarde. He's the sheriff. Oh, I've gotta answer the door. They can see the lights, you know.
Let's go to another show then. How about Cheyenne? Do you remember Clint Walker?
Oh,
Cheyenne?
sure.
Because that was later.
Sure. Yeah, I think that was after, well, it must have been after Spin.
It was like 1959 you did
And
that.
I was supposed to be a fast draw. And by that time, I was more interested in what I was doing. And I wanted to be good at whatever I was supposed to do. Well, I had never fired at summer camp one time in Catalina, we fired rifles, but I never fired a pistol. And I was supposed to be a quick draw in this thing. And you'd never do this today, but I conned the prop department into giving me a holster and a gun. I mean, can you imagine the lawyers would still be coming out, you know? And I went back and I practiced, and you know, you all know you're supposed to cock it on the way up. Right? And I did that so many times, and I got pretty fast, but I also had a bone bruise on the inside of my thumb where you hit the hammer back. And so I thought, well, this is never going to do. So I was a little mechanically inclined, so I took it apart. And there's one leaf spring that is the hammer, you know, and so I filed the leaf spring so that it wouldn't be so hard to pull back. And then I knew I could get through the day anyway. And then I remember Jim Garner was in Maverick at the time, and I saw him coming out of makeup. And I asked him if he'd draw against me, because I'd never done it with anybody else, you know. And he said, "Oh, but he did. He was very kind." And I beat him. And then they gave us these, I don't know, the quarter load or half load blanks, right? Had never fired one. So before the first scene where I'm supposed to be a fast draw, I went to the next street of wherever we shot that, and the next street over, and I, drew a couple times, and one time I drew and I was a little too quick on the trigger, and I blew flame all the way down my leg. Burned the hell out of myself.
Yeah, it's a good thing you had blanks then.
Yeah, well, sure is. I'd be limping coming in here. But that was my fast draw experience. I told that story at one of the two Hollywood parties I ever went to, and it was at Sammy Davis's house. And he overheard me tell that story about, blowing this thing. He said, "Oh, you're a fast drawer, are you?" I said, "Oh no, oh no," and I knew he was into it, you know. And I said, "No, no, no. This was just one thing." He would not let me up, and he opened up this cabinet in this room we were at, and it was all pistols, right? And I thought, "Oh God, I'm in trouble." And he said, "Pick one," and I said, "You know, I don't even want to do this," but so he picked one for me, and then for him, he picked a pistol that had a barrel about that long. And I thought, well, maybe I got a chance here, you know. No way. I never cleared the holster. He shot me, you know.
No, he was legendarily
he was
fast.
very quick.
Yes, yes.
He was very quick.
You also did one of the classic Gunsmoke episodes, a two-parter, The Snow Train.
That's right.
Yeah, with Jim Arness. What was that like?
So we went to South Dakota to shoot that because there was snow. And they had a miniature, not a miniature, but a small gauge train. It was 2 episodes. And I remember the other person who was in it that I remember was I'm bad on names, was the woman who played the nurse.
Loretta Swit.
Yeah, thank you. And she was on the train part of it. I know that. I remember her. That's pretty much all I remember about that.
You don't remember Arness at all?
Yeah, he was his, I believe it was his second movie. He was in the movie that Dave Stollery and I were in together, Her 12 Men.
Oh, yes, with Greer Garson.
Yes.
Yes.
And I believe that was his...
It was one of his early roles,
second movie, I think.
Yeah, I think he'd been The Thing prior to that.
But he didn't have a lot of lines in that.
No, he didn't. He was electric, though, in that role.
Monster. We could go on like this. You know, my wife was already rolling her eyes. So.
Well, let me ask you about another great series that you were in. It wasn't a Western, but it was. It reunited you with Fred MacMurray. You did also Shaggy Dog with Fred.
Yeah.
My Three Sons, which was also a huge hit. That ran for years too.
Yeah.
The great Frank Duvall theme song with the animated shoes.
Yeah. Oh, and I was the one that moved the
best
shoe.
in rhythm. You were the one in rhythm.
I was the older brother, and so I was the one who did that.
Now I understand because Don Pedersen convinced Fred MacMurray to do that. Fred didn't want to do it. He says it's too much work. It's so many hours.
Well, television wasn't really as prestigious as it is now. I mean, television is now, driving movies, and so important. And the internet is going to do the same thing to television that television did to the movies. But he wasn't really anxious to be out there that much. And so he was very hesitant to do this. And the way they got him to do it, they said, look, you'll own half the show. And that was an incentive. And you only work for, I forget how many days, 30-some days, I think. And then we'll shoot around you and then pick up the rest when you're off doing whatever.
And it worked. He was on the phone a lot, alone, or just with you guys?
Well, just with our guys, or he'd be in a shot with all of us, and we'd do that shot and never pick up any of the close-ups or the other shots for months sometimes. We did bits of 13 shows one day. That was the record. I remember that. You can imagine what a nightmare that was for the continuity person, for the script, the dialogue person, or the continuity person. They went insane, and I was at that time. I'd say, I think the chair was a little bit further over there, and I got to be such an annoyance that way that they said something that I use now, which is one of my favorite sayings. They'd say, Tim, on a small screen in a smoke-filled room, no one will know. So if somebody gets up about that kind of stuff now, I say, listen, on a small screen in a smoke-filled room, no one will know the difference.
Well, now everybody's got 7-foot screens, so you couldn't do that today. You're so into cars. You just had a book come out, didn't you?
just the first 3 volumes of a major work, and it is a major work. It's something that I hope I'll be remembered for, because it's a different kind of history. The book is called Twice Around the Clock, the Yanks at Le Mans, or Le Mans, if you like. It's only about Americans. From 1923, the first 3 volumes go through 1979. The really trick part about it is that it's mostly in the voice of the players, the drivers, the crewmen, the team owners, and 37 of them have tipped over since they're in this book. So we hear their voices, and you'll never hear them again, but we hear them there. And that's what makes the book unique. It's different. We know who won the races. So, you know, and it's not just about the stars, it's about anybody who was there. In fact, some of the funniest stories are from people who were not known. But
you also then probably deal with Jim Garner and Steve McQueen in the book?
Well, McQueen, definitely. Funny enough, I gave Steve McQueen his first ride in a race car at Riverside Raceway.
Well, he must have liked it.
He loved it.
Yeah.
And another friend of mine, Ronnie Bucknam, who was a really good driver, taught him how to drive. And they were in street Porsches, you know, done up for racing, but they were street model Porsches. I had a race car. And Globe Photos was doing a shoot on Steve, and he was becoming popular. When I first met him, he was just an out-of-work New York actor who had just arrived, and we met at the place that I hung out, a car place, you know. And so I never knew him industry-wise, and whenever we talked, we always talked about cars. We never talked about anything else. But he was out there, and Globe Photos was doing the thing, and he had become really popular, or was becoming really popular. And at first he asked me, would you come out with Ronnie and me, because they're going to have a camera car and they're going to photograph us, and it'll look better if there's a real race car among us. And so I said, yeah, until it heats up. I had no fan in it. It was a real race car. And then later in the day, he came up and he said, could I drive your car a couple of laps so that they could take pictures of me in the race car? And I said, sure, why not? It's not running worth something. And he did, and he reminded me years later. He said, you know, that's the first time I ever drove a race car. I said, wow, because he became quite a good driver. And he was at Le Mans, but he didn't drive there. He made a movie, which is the most realistic racing movie. It wasn't a good movie, but it was like a tone poem about motor racing, because there was so much realism, there was so much that anybody who was into real racing would know, wow, yeah, that it would bring back, you know, memory. I just got goosebumps thinking about that.
How do people get your book?
They go to our website, which is YANKS at Le Mans, Lemans.
Isn't that Le Mans?
It's Le Mans. Oh. Or if you're a Brit, it's Le Mans. If you're a Brit, but if you're French, it's Le Mans. And I get very conflicted now when I see a Pontiac Le Mans. You know, there's no way it's a Pontiac Le Mans. You know? For me, I always say, thank God there's no justice in this world for my life. You know?
Thank you. My name is Rob Word, and we love bringing these programs to you. We've got a lot more scheduled coming up. We post a new one every single week, and we want you to subscribe, like, and share. Thanks for watching.